Time to talk some Saturday horse racing. It is opening weekend at Santa Anita. This Santa Anita meet is a real fun one because it's the short Santa Anita meet that opens on Friday, September the 29th, and it runs through Breeders' Cup weekend, with the Breeders' Cup actually being at Santa Anita this year. And in this meet, you get those last round of prep races for the Breeders' Cup. We're going to talk about a lot of them coming up this Saturday at Santa Anita. I've got my partner in crime, my main man, the sniper, Barry Spears, joining me to talk about Santa Anita and opening weekend there. How you doing, buddy?
Hey, my man. So excited for the Santa Anita meet because this first day or the first weekend, this Saturday card is amazing.
Excellent.
And then it brings us right into the Breeders' Cup, and I can't wait, man.
And I got to give credit to Santa Anita because we will be critical when it needs be. The last few years, they have had some days, big stakes races, really small fields, really chalky days. The last year or so, from Santa Anita to Del Mar, their big days have all really delivered. We've gotten big fields and really good betting opportunities. And so credit to Santa Anita, credit to Southern California, because when things were not going well, it was highly publicized for a lot of reasons, and it should have been. And now things are going a little bit better out here overall with field sizes, with the track safety. Well, we didn't have a whole lot of issues with horses getting injured or going down over the summer at Del Mar. So, hey, we'll be critical when it's time to be critical. But as a bettor and as a fan of racing, I was really proud and impressed with what Southern California has been doing over the last year or so.
Yeah, you know, they definitely have done some things behind the scenes to kind of improve the product a little bit, and it's working out. And hopefully they can keep that momentum going and bring us right into the Breeders' Cup, and boom, the world will be watching.
We'll be there within the next 5 weeks or so. We encourage all of you. You can follow along and you can look at the daily racing form past performances. You can get them for free, because one of the gripes that we all have as horse players, if we're betting the races, we really don't want to spend a whole bunch of money on past performances. So DRF Bets lets you do that now. When you sign up for a DRF Bets account, every time you bet $50, they give you credit for a free past performance. So every time you're wagering, you wager a couple $100 on a day, boom, you've got 4 of them already set up for next time you need to go get a card. So again, it's not a perfect system, but it's better than a lot of other options. And you can go right now to DRF Bets, use that promo code WINNING, and right off the bat, they're going to give you 10 free DRF past performances. So we want to make sure we've got our money to bet on the races, right, Barry? We don't want to be spending and going and emptying that wallet before we even play. So Saturday, we will be looking at races 6 through 10. It's the late pick 5 sequence. I don't love that Santa Anita has the later pick 5 with the high takeout and the earlier one with the lower takeout. So I always just mention that in case, but we'll talk about this sequence because 4 of the 5 races are graded stakes races, and it's a good betting sequence. However you want to approach it, I always try to tackle the lower takeout wagers if possible. But this is a prep race, Barry, the 6th race, the Grade 2 Santa Anita Championship, the Sprint Championship Stakes, Breeders' Cup Sprint Prep. So we'll see a couple of these horses show up in the Breeders' Cup Sprint, which is going to be right here over this track. So this is a nice look at some of these runners. We got to start with Dr. Chevelle, who was your runner-up in the Breeders' Cup 2 years ago in 2021. He was beaten just a nose that day. Aloha West came to nailed him late. He's the favorite on the morning line. He's capable of a lot when he's, shows up with a good effort. He definitely has had a lot of physical issues through the years. He's had lots of layoffs and interruptions, but when he shows up and he puts forth a good effort, he's a very nice horse.
Definitely. It was strange because I wanted to write him off after his Met Mile.
Me too.
And he kind of came back in the Bing Crosby and ran really, really well. Just didn't kind of set up for him the way you would think.
It was sort of a different trip for him, right?
He was way outside,
back. Yeah.
And far back. And I really don't know what to make of that effort, to be honest.
No.
But if he runs anywhere close to what he did in Maidan, he'll win this race. I just think this is such an interesting race.
It
And I
is.
think
It
there's a
is.
lot of speed in here. And I think it's the pace is going to get hot.
Yep.
It's like, what do you do with Speedboat Beach in
I
this
know.
situation? I
He has
mean, the horse
no,
clearly has run his fastest race on dirt.
and only one way to go, I think. Like, he doesn't really want
Right.
to sit. They just want to go with him. He's drawn towards the outside. And it makes these races difficult when you have, a couple of the Baffert horses that are the speed horses too, that could really dictate the race. Because if Speedboat Beach goes, and let's say, the 3 Arabian Lion is fine taking back a couple lengths, could Speedboat Beach just sneak away? I don't know how. I mean, it's interesting when he can dictate it with a couple of these horses. Who are some of the others in here who you're kind of liking, or how are you seeing this race shape up? If you're playing a pick 5 or late exotics, give us a few who are in the mix for you.
Well, you know how I feel about Fort Bragg, and I think
Yeah,
this race sets up for this horse very,
I
very
agree.
well. I can forgive that effort in the mud at Saratoga. Probably wasn't his bag. Gets actually such a better setup on Saturday, and I love the work on September 23rd, and I think that was in company with Speedboat Beach. But it just looks like this race is going to set up so well for Fort Bragg, and the other horse that kind of caught my eye was the 9 Spirit of Machina.
Yeah.
I think 3 for 3 at Santa Anita has to count for something, and
So
I think, off the bench, I think this horse really was not prepared to run that day at Del Mar on July 29th.
he wasn't at the start, right? Like, he
Yeah.
didn't get out of the gate, and then it was that big field. That Bing Crosby was such a tough field, and he got
Really
shuffled and stuff. It was a brutal trip. We can
Brutal.
eliminate that. And then last time, he looms up, looks like he's going to go on and win easy, and then it just, like, the 7 furlongs just sort of
Right.
hits him.
And
Like,
to
he just
me,
stopped.
and it seems like he needed that race.
Yeah.
Even more than the first race. I mean, he didn't really get anything out of the first race.
No,
because
you're right.
He didn't really do much running at all, and kind of threw in the towel. But the next race, the one on the Pat O'Brien, was a much improved race. Probably not even his best. It was weird. He kind of went inside then outside. It was a strange trip, and I'm willing to forgive that. And I think being 3 for 3 at Santa Anita, getting back there, will make all the difference, and probably rates to be okay as far as trip wise, because the speed's inside and can clock them and kind of take over at the top of the stretch if he's going to make a winning bid. But I really do like Fort Bragg here more than anybody else.
Those the two that the first 3 we mentioned would be, if I'm playing multi exotics, I would need the 4 and the 9 on my ticket as price sort of middle tier horses. I do think Dr. Chevel's the horse to beat in here. Like, if he were to show up with his A game, I think he's better. The horse who I don't know what to do with is Arabian Lion. Because
what's he going to do? I mean,
right? Yeah, like,
is he going to go head and head with the stablemate?
Bit, but I don't think that's where, like, his best races are when he's really let loose. And honestly, I start looking back through his form now, and I don't know, when he wins, who's the best horse he's beaten in a race he's won?
Well, I guess you
Drew's
could
Gold,
say Drew's
Gilmore.
Gold, but he's not that great.
Like, those Drew's Gold, like,
they wouldn't be favored in this race. They wouldn't even be
that. And that's that's one of the things I'm looking at. He's not beaten a whole lot. Even in the last race, for example, right? The Jerkins, which we can completely excuse it for him and for Fort Bragg. If I'm not using that as his only race because it's a sloppy race, maybe they didn't like it that day. But he ran 3rd. Remember, it was actually 4th.
Mm-hmm. Yes,
they weren't going to win that race. That was the race that New York Thunder was going to win.
That's right.
Went wrong. So it looks even like a better finish on paper when he wasn't going to finish 3rd. He was going to be 4th, well beaten. So yeah, I guess I'm a little cold. It kind of sounds like you are too. We just don't know what to do with him at a short price in here. I prefer Fort Bragg, who's probably gonna be double his price.
Yeah, and honestly, I don't think this trip or this distance is his best distance anyway. So to me, this might be a little bit of a
Yeah, I think he's kind of a miler, like maybe like a
yeah.
speed
That's what I
miler,
think.
like a
That's where I
speed
thought he was
miler.
going to show up at Breeders' Cup time.
Yeah.
I wouldn't think he's going to show up in the sprint.
And maybe he will show up there and they're using this to get there because you don't have
Right.
as many, there aren't like dirt mile preps all over. You know what I mean? You usually have to pick a 6 or 7 furlong race or go a little longer. So maybe they're doing that to sharpen up the speed and then in the dirt
Yeah.
mile, let him loose. That would make sense to me more than
Right.
even trying to win this race. He could like sit right behind some of the other speed, sharpen that speed up and go.
Yeah, that's what I was thinking because, he really isn't a 6 furlong horse. I mean, he broke his maiden at 6.
That's just when he's
But
better though,
right,
right?
exactly.
Yeah.
He was just faster than the horses he was running against. I'm just not convinced he's a sprinter. And
Yeah.
that might play into this a little bit because, you see his running lines and he has a lot of pace early, but he was going longer. Probably
And then
won't be on the pace on Saturday, at least on the lead. I guess he
No.
could be,
Yeah,
but I don't think that's what they're going to try to do.
Me neither, because I don't know why Speedboat Beach would be in this race.
Right.
If they were going to do that, just don't put this horse in the race and let Arabian Lion go and let loose. But Speedboat Beach wouldn't make sense trying to have him come from off the pace with all of his natural speed as it is. So
right, and that's why I'm looking for alternatives.
yeah, I liked Sir Atticus in his last start, and it was a little disappointing because the Pat O'Brien wasn't nearly as strong as the Bing Crosby was. That was a much tougher race. And I think this race is a little tough too with both Arabian Lion, Spirit of Machina back in here again. And, the possibility of, Fort Bragg running a big race in here. Like those are all horses who I think make it a little tougher. I wouldn't be surprised to see Sir Atticus run better than last time. Like he was trending in a nice direction. His 2 wins were really good and not exactly sure. Maybe it was a little too much. It wasn't like it was a bad race, but he kind of just loomed up and was just super flat.
Yeah, I think a lot of those trips happened that day.
Yeah, you're right. They're a little flat.
And it was a little weird the way the track was playing. But we'll see. I think the horses coming out of that race will probably run well, like the 9 and possibly this is a really tough race. I think I was going to go out on a limb and say this might be the best race we'll see before the Breeders' Cup.
From a contentious prep race, you compare this to some of the other prep races we see at different places, and man, it's so refreshing to have some legitimate horses, contenders, and then also a good field, a good sized field when we're getting all of that right off the bat in the first graded stakes race on Saturday at Santa Anita. Let's move to the 7th race, 6.5 on the turf, but it's the straight 6.5. We're not coming down the hill. These are Calbred maiden special weights. These are 2-year-old fillies in here sprinting on the turf. A couple that were on my radar, Barry, Asada Fries. The debut was very solid when finishing 4th. Was only beaten a length and 3/4 that day. It really got going late. And then last time, you can either take a look at the race or even just look at the chart, just chased a lone speed winner. So there was a race where she just didn't really have much pace to run at. I think it's a nice spot for her. The 2 that I wanted to mention to start were right next to each other, the 4 and the 5. Kit's Katie. Kit's Katie went long last time out and was kind of pushed in at the start. Didn't have a whole lot of room, was shuffled. And if you look at the running line, it just says rough trip. So when you see that
roughed up,
usually it was what was the meme that you posted yesterday, right? And it says DRF comment off slowly and they fall over on their face. Like this is rough trip was basically what happened here for Kit's Katie. Those were 2 that I wanted to mention, Barry, that are going to be on my radar here. Talk to us about how you saw the 7th race.
Yeah, this is another tough, contentious race with these young 2-year-old fillies. One horse that caught my eye was Annie Fox.
Yep.
I think she showed a real turn of foot early last time.
Love the cutback.
Yes, and I think the cutback will do this one a lot of good price. The workout on September 14th has this one sharp, ready to go. The other one who I really, really think is interesting here is the 10. Look at her glide. The Dam
Absolutely.
gliding by was a pretty good turf horse.
Yep, she won her debut also at Woodbine, going long on the turf. Look at that move. The Dam went from dead last and just inhaled the field. And in her second start, she was in the Breeders' Cup Juvenile Fillies turf.
Exactly. I think this one merits a big shot. I mean, the workouts
Completely
are real
agree.
steady and kind of moving in the right direction after that first kind of spin around the track. Step slow is the comment. Inside evenly. That's exactly what you see from a horse that is just basically getting a run in before they really go after it. Yep. And I think 12-1, I gotta take a shot.
Absolutely, with the blinkers coming on there. One that I looked at initially, the Dam of this horse, Just Enough Appeal, was good on the grass and was classy. So this one has a little pedigree that's intriguing to me. The only thing is it has to be mentioned there. You see some of the turf success here, multiple winner on the turf, and even this horse who was 0 for 10 did hit the board and was stakes placed. But the concern I had was mainly D'Amato's recent success with first-time starters, which you can pull up, hasn't been all that great. Like the last like we can look over first-time starters. So this is the last 5 years, 10%. So for D'Amato, who's usually like a 15 to 20% barn, already not necessarily a strength. Then when you go and you can look at the last 1 year time frame instead of 5 years, all of these features you do with the DRF formulator past performances. Just 1 for 29 over the last year.
That's no bueno.
And so if you think about a lot of instances, and what's crazy is the one that won that ended up being a victor was at 25-1. So they almost got all the way back to the positive just on that one horse winning. But imagine how many people or how many times you may have lost money playing on like a D'Amato first-time starter that, hey, like probably was, you think it's a good barn, logical, but for some reason they've just done a lot better with horses with a couple races under their belt. So thought that was worth mentioning. And then one other note, the 2 does come out of an open race. So they thought enough of this filly to debut her against Open Company. Michael McCarthy has had a lot of success in the last couple of years, even more with first-time starters, but he used to be awesome with the second-timers. Now he's even better with the firsters, so there's not as much of a difference between first out to second out, but very good still with young horses, and this will be an easier spot for her. So, she had a tough start at the beginning of a 5 furlong race against Better in a race when you're 25-1 and you need everything to go right for you to probably win. So tough to be too hard on her for that. Right. She could absolutely improve it. Again, we mentioned a race where we go through 6 or 7 horses, just fantastic fields.
Like the 2 is definitely a big contender here. I appreciate the jock switch too.
Yep.
Not that anything against Gio Franco, because he's good. But it seems like they switched because Rispoli is probably more adept on the turf.
Exactly.
And has a better feel for it. And that may be the case here. 8-1 on a horse that kind of got in a little bit of trouble, took a spin around the track, stretching out just a little bit. That one is from a good barn too, that do well with these types. You can't discount that one at all.
If you're playing a pick 4 or pick 5, these are the types of horses you're looking for. These 6, 8-1 shots that are going to get a lot of separation for you and that are going to inflate your pool. So,
things that I don't think get talked about much, as much as it should, is when you're playing or you attack a sequence like this. With a pick 5, you kind of want to limit the amount of favorites you want to use in these sequences.
There's got to be 2 races in every sequence where you make that decision right away. I mean, at least 1 in every sequence where you're like, this is just the race, I'm taking a stand. Because I don't even want to construct a ticket anymore where it will hit and lose money. Why do I do that? It's not, it'll happen occasionally when you just, there was a few possibilities and a horse scratched and all of a sudden, it'll happen, but you don't want to put yourself in a situation where half of your combinations, you don't even know if you're going to make money on them.
Right. Exactly. And I think that's what gets missed a lot.
Yeah. Find a different way to play. If that's how you feel you have to play a pick 4 or pick 5, don't play them.
Right. Yeah. I mean, the way I see it is, if I'm conceding payoffs, that's what I say.
Yes,
when I do that, is conceding a lower payoff. So I'm not going to use those combinations. It's that simple. And if you leave them out and you happen to get a break here or there, then you're going to see those profits go up because you're eliminating those terrible payoffs. And that's the point, because you see people hit these $3, $4, $5, $6, $7, $8, $9, $10,000 hits. That's why, because they're including those horses that people don't have.
Yep. And not the ones that everybody does have.
Right.
Like, those are the horses that aren't going to you're going to win more often, but lose more money.
That's correct.
So that's what's a hard thing for us sometimes, for a lot of people, to not cash as many tickets, right?
Tough.
Yeah, it's tough. It's like you got to trick yourself into thinking that way, because once you start, and the first thing you're sort of taught right away, or like when you're a kid growing up, or even 20 or 30 years ago, where maybe the common perception of gambling wasn't quite as sharp, right? Like the common person now is a little sharper probably than 30 years ago, just on the base. And you gotta give yourself every opportunity to make, the most money you possibly can. And when you're adding horses you don't like and you don't feel like you need, just because you're scared, you're wasting money. You're losing money. Right there,
Yep. And I think that's the thing, is people, psychologically get I'm not going to hit this bet.
Dude, and I've done it. You've done it. We've all do it. Yeah. I'm not acting like I'm not like standing up on the ledge, like screaming down to you. I will still do it sometimes, and then I look back after and I'll try to see, where did I make a mistake there? Did I do anything wrong on that ticket? And yep, you know what? I didn't need that horse. I got scared. I talked myself into it. I looked at somebody else that sort of, that's what you do. And you do it the next day or two, not when you're all pissed off still, right? you let it go for a day or two, and then you'll have more of a clear head when you come back and look at it, and you can really see what went down. But
it's that clarity.
give my guy Mike Joyce a shout out. And this was just one thing he would say on TV sometimes to me, and it's like a really simple thing. I'm not like, I love Mike Joyce. I'm not acting like he rewrote. He's like written the most elaborate thing in the world here. But all he would say was just, think about how much time you spend handicapping, and then how much time you spend putting your tickets together.
Oh, right? I always say this. I preach this all the time. I spend way more time constructing tickets than I do handicapping.
Exactly. And that's the thing. If you are someone who handicaps a lot and you're not spending even a fraction of that time building your tickets, mapping one out, looking at it, how much is that? Nah, that's too much. How much is the next one? Okay. It gets it's scary sometimes because you're adding horses on there and you may cross ones, but that's what you got. That's what you have to do. Here's two different tickets. This one, I'm going to do this. I'm going to single that horse I really like. Then on this next one, I'm going to single the other horse that I really like. That way, if either one of those horses hits, I probably hit one of the, and that was one thing Mike would always remind me and people when we were there. Hey, just spend a few minutes mapping out your tickets, whatever it is, take a few extra minutes to put it together. And I like to remind people to do that because it's a simple thing. But if you get handicapping, you get it all done, and then you just sort of get up to the window sometimes and you kind of forget. Oh, I know I know who I like. And then you start going through the fields and you forget. And that was our gambling little bit of a tangent for today. As we move on to race number 8, my friend, we're going to the awesome, again, 1 1/8 for older horses here. And we will see your Preakness winner, National Treasure. He's going to show up. We're also going to see Defunded for trainer Bob Baffer. And Defunded's kind of tailed off in his last few. Slow Down Andy has become very consistent. He's run a string of like 5 or 6 races, and 5 of them have been good out of the 6, just sort of one poor performance. And after those, the rest of the field is kind of a wild card, right? Like those are your
Yeah.
major contenders. And it's not even like any one of them is a cinch. Defunded's not in great form. National Treasure is going to have to face Older for the first time, coming off of a couple lackluster efforts. And we've got Slow Down Andy, who I like, and I think he's honest, and I think he will run well, but he's run well in 4 of his last 5 races, and he didn't win any of those 4. He hit the board in all of them, in those 4, but he didn't win any of them. So there's no cinch, no standout here. Even the shorter prices, you can really dig some holes in them and knock a little bit. So talk to us about how you see this one playing out.
Yeah, I mean, at first, usually I go through a race 3 to 4 times. First run through, I looked at this race and I thought, maybe these Baffert horses can get beat. Second time through, no chance. They've been keeping way better company than what's in this field between the 2 of them. And I'm not sure which one is going to be cranked up, but one of them is definitely going to be cranked up and win this race because they've been just keeping way better company. And I would say it probably is National Treasure.
I lean him
seen a lot
over the
of
Bafferts.
Defunded. Yeah, we've seen a lot of Defunded, and he really hasn't been all that great. He's been, running against the top level horses. But, I think the best thing for him is that, Arabian Night is in this race.
Yeah.
But he can bounce back for sure, but I can't trust him. But I do think he's probably better than he looks on paper, which is crazy that you get a Bob Baffert horse that's muddied up, but that's the one. And then National Treasure obviously did well in the Preakness when he had it his own way. I don't really see too much competition outside the stable.
Like, I don't, and this is going to come off bad, the thing, but I don't think he's that good. You know what I mean?
No, he's not. He really
But he's going to get the kind of trip again that he got, I think, in the Preakness. And I agree with you. I feel like I have to kind of adjust my settings for this race because when I'm thinking about National Treasure along the lines of Arcangelo, right?
No chance, right?
It's a little, but when I'm thinking about National Treasure along the lines of
Stiletto
Slow
Boy.
Down Andy, you know what I mean? Like
He's
in this
way
field,
better.
who I think is the way I'm looking at this is Slow Down Andy is the measuring stick horse. I think he's going to run a good race again, loom up. He'll be like second or third if one of these other horses doesn't show up with the real A game. But I do think that there's a major possibility that National Treasure does. And the blinker's going on, his second start back after the short little break. He's getting a little cut back. It was on a muddy track. He didn't get the lead last time out because Scotland wanted the lead. So I don't know how much he wants to sit off other horses. He's never passed horses in his life at all. His wins came when he was right on the lead. So that feels like it's got to be the plan for him. I prefer him of the Bafferts. I'm probably like, and I had a hard time getting to, like you did. I'm looking at this race initially going, oh, I'm against Defunded and National Treasure. And then I start I'm like licking my lips like, okay, who's it going to be? Who's it going to be? And then you start going to everyone else and you're like, oh no. Oh, because no. Like, because I don't have any problem with Slow Down Andy as a horse, but if you're at 5-2, he's not fun.
No, not at all. Because he kind of falls short a lot.
And if he has a nice running style and he looms up again, that's fine. But like, look at the races. And maybe it just leaves a bad taste in my mouth because I've had Slow Down Andy on my tickets at 15-1, 17-1, 7-2, and 11-1. And he's run well all of those times, but not
didn't win.
Right. And now we're going to have to take him at 2-1.
Well, he hasn't won in a year, which is crazy.
I know. And that's what's hard. He is very honest and is a deserving major player contender in here. I just think he's not a fun enough price for me. 3-7. If I was looking at this race from maybe like a stable duel standpoint or trying to find some value at all, the only one of these horses that I could get back to including would be Stiletto Boy. because he has races that are this good somewhere on his
Yeah.
page. And,
Oh, yeah.
some of these other horses have never even gotten to a level. Like, I don't know if Skinner is even this good. I don't know if Bye Bye Bobby is this good, or Celestial Moon or Paroli is good enough to win this race. Stiletto Boy is, if he's okay, if he's right, but he's tough to trust off of what happened last time. He just was never involved at all. Can you put a line right through that and maybe say, okay, he's finally going to be able to put a couple starts together. He's able to work up at Golden Gate a few times. He would be the only one, Barry, of a horse that's not going to be a short price that I could use in some tickets and make a case for.
Yeah,
and it's not even a great one. Like, I don't love it, you know?
Yeah, I mean, he's what you have in front of you. You know, I thought him or Buscador were the two horses that I could use other than the Bafferts, but it's going to be tough to get around either of those horses.
And even like we're saying with them, what makes this race difficult is I would love Buscador or Stiletto Boy to be more like 8-12 to 1, you know, but everybody's just a little shorter than they should be in this race. And so you don't feel like you get a whole lot of value with really anyone. That's why you kind of keep coming back to National Treasure. And if he's like 7-2 in this race, and he's like your third choice in here, and we don't really love a whole lot of the other bigger prices, sometimes handicapping has to be this way. You don't, it's not always linear. You don't just start out with a race and go, oh, I like this horse. Boom, let's move on to the next.
If it were only that easy, man.
I know. So otherwise, you wouldn't be watching us. We wouldn't be doing these videos, and I wouldn't have had a job and work for the last decade or so. So I'm glad that people don't do that as we finish up with the awesome again, and we move to our final two graded stakes races on the Saturday card at Santa Anita. 9th race, we are headed down the hill. And this one is my best play of the sequence, my friend.
Okay.
And I'll tell you, it says what I am. I'm a gambler. I'm a gambler here. This is what it says. I think it's a great spot for this horse. I look back at I'm a Gambler. This is a horse who had a lot of success sprinting before coming over to North America and the U.S. In fact, look at the 5 races before he came over. They were going 7 furlongs, and he won 4 of those 5.
Group 3 in there, a couple handicaps, a stake.
And the downhill at Santa Anita is 6.5, which is identical to the 7 furlong trip that this horse was going as far as distance. Now, when we look at the form of this horse, I'm a Gambler. He shows up at the end of last year, and he ran fine in the Mathis Mile. It was off of a bit of a layoff. He finished 4th. He was only beaten 2 lengths that day. And then something went wrong. He had some kind of a physical issue because he was off for 7 months. Shows back up in July in the Wicker. Against a tough field, we saw Du Jour come right back and win in back-to-back races. And in the Wicker, he's just like a little short. After a good start, it was like a solid 3rd in his first race in 7 months. And then in the Del Mar Mile, he made a big, wide sort of move to the lead in early stretch and was in the photo for the minor awards. He finishes 6th, but we got to watch the end of the race just because it's one of those where it's not as bad as the 6th might look. So I'm a Gambler is the number 7 in this race, Barry, that we're watching. And I really like where he's sitting in here. He's sitting like 4th, 2 lengths off.
Yeah, he's in a good spot flight there. Yeah.
Really, really nice spot. And we can watch him and pick him up the rest of the way. And we can see he's going to make the wide move to the lead not long after this in early stretch. But a horse like named Du Jour, who's in excellent form right now, is able to go by them. This is a race that included some really good horses like Exalted and some legitimate graded stakes winners. Here comes I'm a Gambler making the move now on the outside. And this is going a mile. Now we'll get the cut back to 6.5 furlongs. That's what I really love. We're going to get a good pattern for a horse who's proven at this trip. Here he comes, launching 3 wide, moving to the lead. And I think it's just a little too far for him. His best races are not at a mile. They're at 7 and even at 6. Here comes De Jure, who blasts right by. Now, look, Barry, there are like 5 horses that line up for second. Look, he finished 6th.
Right. And was second, or could have been second.
Like, really may have been second best with the, because what I like about the way he was ridden, he was in that race to win it. He moved to the lead. He tried to win that race. He wasn't in there to run for second. If they would have timed that race differently, he could have finished second. But now we get the cutback, third off the bench. I like him quite a bit in this spot, cutting back to 6.5. I just think it'll play out really well for him down the hill. More punch. I'm a gambler. I like him in this spot, Barry. But what I like about this spot is that it's contentious, so it's a good race to have a strong opinion. Talk to us about some others that need to be on our radar.
I'm with you with I'm a gambler. My notes on this horse say, can't wait for this one to run down the hill.
Exactly.
And,
right.
And here we are.
You feel it sometimes with these horses where you look at them in their profile and you go, gosh, that one's gonna be good when they get down the hill.
Oh, yeah. And, the other one that kind of piqued my attention a little bit is the 10, Pax of Wallach.
Yep.
I'm going to forgive that last race at 5 at Del Mar in the I think it's General Flash.
Oh, the Green Flash.
Flash. There you go.
We talked about that race. Remember how tough that field was?
Looked like a standout.
And he was a monster, but like Beer Can Man is nice. Turn on the Jets is nice. Buzz is that freaky fast Calbred horse. That was a loaded group.
Yeah, and I think this trip might actually work out better for this horse. I mean, you look how this horse's career has gone, and once he hit the grass, he just started blossoming. Lost some momentum. Maybe got hurt, or they just laid him off after the juvenile turf last year. Came back in the Sham. I guess that was their attempt at getting on the Derby Trail. No bueno.
Yep.
Laid him off, then shows up, at the beginning of this month and doesn't run well. I don't know. I just think that getting this horse at this trip might be the thing.
Well, when you talk about horses that we thought would be good down the hill, this is a perfect example of a horse where you look at their running lines and you go, the mile, even though he won at a mile a couple times, that was just because he was better than some of those horses and he has like a little more natural speed. Cutting back to this from those trips would be perfect. And the 5 last time was a nice little tightener for him to get ready, but it was in a really tough spot. And now he gets to go to a trip that's probably much better for him.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think his price is right, and I don't think there's anybody that really kind of towers over this field.
Not at all.
You think Brand is probably going to be the favorite. He's not unbeatable in this spot. And the other horse that kind of caught my eye was the 1, Balnikov.
I think so too.
I think the cutback for this one will probably be ideal. Although my reservation is this horse might get way too far back.
Yeah. I like the just let him loose though. You know what I mean? Like because he will come running and he's one of those horses where I think sometimes when you try to get him into the race earlier, it dulls his punch. I think they've tried to do that once or twice, even last time where it's like they try to move a little earlier. I think he is one of those horses that you want to wait, and time it. And if they can just keep him, like you're saying, 7 or 8 lengths out of it and not 12 to 15.
Yeah, he'll be good. Yeah.
When they come turning for home and then press the button, he could come flying. That race 2 starts back. I mean, that runner-up effort to Gold Phoenix, that's a good race.
Well, even the Del Mar Mile, the one where Du Jour beat Exalted and Visitant, that race, he actually didn't get a great trip.
No, he was in some traffic.
Yeah, he definitely was because I bet him that day because I was looking to beat Du Jour, and this horse got bottled up and kind of tried to get out, and it was a little bit too late, and they were already gone. So I think the cutback might do as good. They just have to keep this horse kind of in the race a little bit earlier and kind of keep up with the field, and I think he'll be okay.
Well, there's a look at the Eddie D, who was my mom, Mrs. Bacola. My mom, when she was still Mrs. Rochford, used to work at Santa Anita. She sold the digest out front.
Nice.
She had the biggest, I say had, she has still the biggest crush on Eddie D. Absolutely loves Eddie D. She loved to play him, but she just gets the butterflies with Eddie D. He's one of those. So it's so funny.
So hopefully we won't get a wire-to-wire winner in this
No,
race.
we need a way late. That's a Bolitnikov move, right?
Exactly.
Eddie D would have been aboard Bolitnikov there, coming from way, way out of it in the 9th race on Saturday at Santa Anita, the Grade 2, Eddie D. Let's take a turn to race number 10, the City of Hope Mile. And I got to mention this real quick. The City of Hope saved my life. When I was sick and I had cancer, I have 5 or 6 rounds of chemotherapy at the City of Hope. I had to spend an entire month there the first time. I got an infection. I got really sick. It did not look like I was going to make it. I was 22 years old. I had just been working at TVG for not even a full year. I had had the greatest month of my entire life. I made $80,000 betting in the Del Mar Summer. And I had all my bank was filled. I was loving life. I was just got a job on TV and I was doing the late double shows. And I was so confident. Life was great for me. And I felt a lump in my neck and I got sick. And within, I was pretty lucky because one of the women that was working as an executive at City of Hope, I went to school with her daughter at LaSalle High School. And we knew each other. She was a couple years younger than me. And I was having a hard time getting in to the hospital. There's long waiting lists and everything. And well, the girl found out. She told her mom. Her mom called me up and said, I know you're friends with my daughter. You were always very nice to her. I work over here. We've got a room ready for you at City of Hope next week. Don't you worry about it. And they saved my life, man. It's crazy. And I see a race like this and I see the word City of Hope. I drive by it sometimes here and there and I get weird feelings, but
sure.
For anybody who may not have known that story, or maybe you've just started following the last couple of years here and there, shout out to City of Hope, the place that saved my life. The reason why I'm still here talking right now, because within a month had non-Hodgkin's lymphoma. Within a month, I had lost 50 pounds. I was under 100 pounds when I was getting weighed, like in the 90s. Which was just crazy. And place saved me. One day they came in and they told me, oh yeah, by the way, we did your last scan. Everything's clear.
Nice.
What?
That's
oh my gosh.
Amazing.
Like out of nowhere. It was unbelievable. So
that's amazing. I'm glad they were there for you though, because we're here now.
Yeah. And the City of Hope sponsors the big stakes race to close out the card on Saturday at Santa Anita. It's the Grade 2 City of Hope Mile Stakes. And in this one, Barry, a couple horses are on my radar. One horse that I play, or it's coming out of the same race. When we previewed September 2nd, I liked War at Sea a little bit that day. And it's same thing that you were saying. Because I bet him, he got a trip that he had no chance. He was like 3 wide all the way around the track, and he just never had a shot. So I would definitely use him back because of that. I thought last time was the race where he would show some improvement, be able to step forward. He didn't really get the chance to do so. He's one for me. And then the other one for me that I wanted to mention also in that same race was Twist, who had a bunch of trouble. So there were a lot of horses that come out of that race that had some trips. Those were the two that I'll start with at least. And what is another nice way to end the card, like a really contentious betting race. Probably starts with Hong Kong Harry based on what he's done, but he's been your beaten favorite in 2 of the last 3 races. It's not like he's invincible.
Yeah, I mean, he's definitely one to beat here.
Yep.
But he's not invincible. He can and does get into some trouble trying to weave his way through the pack. So it's definitely possible, especially in this race, because there's not really a whole bunch of speed side on. And the horse Astronomer kind of looks to play the role of the pace setter, and however far that horse wants to take him, he definitely has a chance to win this race because he can slow this race down, and that would mean a lot of trouble for a horse like Hong Kong Harry. And another horse that kind of caught my eye at a price is Flavius.
That's funny.
Kind
These
of
are yeah, we're on the same page here because of what, like, Astronomer, massive upside. Again, if you're playing a pick 4 or pick 5, I can't leave Astronomer out because there are versions of this race where he just gets the lead and goes. Like, he's got to be on my ticket as one of the 3 or 4 horses in this race I'm using.
Yeah, I mean, you can't really trust him and be like, wow, this horse is just going to take these horses wire to wire, because he hasn't really proved it at this level. But we know that, certain circumstances can make a horse that probably isn't the best on paper turn out to be better when the race actually runs. And I think that may be the case with Astronomer. He may take him a long way because the race dynamics are in his favor.
And while we're on him for even a little bit more, like, what if you're looking at his form and you're a little concerned because that number he threw up last time was sort of a bigger figure that he's had, keep in mind that we saw him at the end of his 2-year-old season, and then he missed all of his 3-year-old season. And then half of the, you know what I mean? Like the 4-year-old season. So think about all of the growth and development and maturity that might be there that we don't even know that is built into this horse. He might be ready to take one more step forward from his 92 buyer speed figure to a 95, 98, or 100. It wouldn't be absurd based on some of the other progression, like where he was going with some of his other races prior to that. And then he just missed all that time when you develop and you grow and you become a bigger horse. So I'm glad you pointed him out, because he was that next horse I wanted to mention, because I can't play a pick 4 or pick 5 and he's not one of them, because turning for home, if he's got a length or 2 on the field, you're going to really want this horse.
Oh yeah. But the rest of them kind of look a little overmatched here. Like a horse that I really would want to like, Irideo, just has been stuck with awful trips.
Yeah.
And probably will get another bet on Saturday.
I had him on one of the days when he was second. I think it was the American, when he was 13-1 when he was second behind Exalted. And he was never going to win that day, but he just ran like a really good race to finish second. And that's sort of what you get from him, because he spots the field so much ground. And with this trip, he's probably going to be
outside again. Yeah, he's just roughed up.
Everything would need to go so perfect for him to win this. Let's see. We mentioned Twist. We mentioned
Kafkin Peak is another one. It's just a perennial like runner up.
Yeah,
he runs in all these nice races and runs well, just doesn't win them.
And you don't have, like, there's 1 or 2 times where he had a little bit of trouble and you would play him back after that. But then it seems like he may just be a cut below, like a Hong Kong Harry and even an Irideo and Flavia, like some of this tier of horses, he might be right below them. But you understand why they run and they take shots in here, because it's not like far. And they're not like all these other opportunities.
He's cashing checks too.
Yeah, he's not like he's getting overmatched. Those horses just at their best are maybe just a little bit better than him winning. And so at 4-1, I think he's a little short for me for wanting to use him in here.
Yeah, I mean, honestly, it's like every time this horse runs, he probably should be 4-1.
Yeah, I know you're right? Like the same all the way through. Twist talked about the trouble he had. Flavius is a fun one too, because he has some really good races that he can throw in. Like when he gets the right type of trip, right type of setup, he moved to the front in the Wicker at 40-1 and ran a bang up race behind Du Jour. And last time out, it was at Kentucky. We can very easily put a line right through and forgive horses who don't run well over that course anytime.
Yeah. Even a horse like Hit the Road, who hasn't been good in a couple of years, but he's always there. I mean, it wouldn't surprise me if this horse wins. I mean, he's done it on the big stage before. He definitely needs a form reversal, but I mean, again, this is a really evenly matched field. If things break the wrong way or right way, he could be coming late.
He's the type of long shot that I like including also because just what you're pointing out, like we were pointing out with Flavius, these are horses who have done it before. So you know they're capable of winning this type of a race. It's in there. They can do it. The question is it still there? Is it still there?
Right. That's where the gamble is, basically.
And that's why that's why if they're 15-1, it's worth it. If they're 4 or 5-1, it's probably not.
Exactly.
And when you dive into his form, this is a horse who 2 years ago in the City of Hope Mile ran a bang-up race behind Mo Forza and Smooth Like Straight. And then he was in the Pegasus World Cup turf. Look, he was only 8-1 in that race. That he took a bunch of money in that race. And I remember thinking he was going to be one of the better, like, older turf horses that year. That's how he was sort of set up. And then something went wrong. He's off from January all the way to December the 31st. So 11 months,
a year.
The whole year. He shows up last year in 2022. He runs twice, doesn't really fire in either one of them. And then he's gone for another few months, and then he's gone for a couple more months. Like, you can make some excuses for him. The blinkers come back on. Have there been some physical issues? And now he's rounding back into form. And at 15-1, he's not a horrible horse to have in your, exotics when you're closing here.
If you think this is a spread race, you got to use him.
Hit the road. Well, hopefully Barry and I have helped lead you to a couple horses on Saturday at Santa Anita. It is opening weekend there. This weekend and next weekend are the two real, last big prep weekends that we have, because this weekend will be Santa Anita. There's a few at Belmont and Aqueduct. Then next weekend, Keeneland opens up. So we'll have stakes races at Keeneland, at Aqueduct, and at Santa Anita, all the last round of prep races to get everybody ready for the Breeders' Cup, which is just about 5-6 weeks away right now. Man, I love the ground that we've covered over the last few months. Now we get to check back in with our friends at Santa Anita. Next week, we'll probably talk a little Keeneland. And we're getting closer to the Breeders' Cup, my friend. Thanks again for all your hard work. Let all the folks out there know, Going in Circles, Big Mondays, anything else we got going on. You're not selling tickets or anything like that out there, right? No group tickets.
no group tickets. No.
Okay, just wanted to check out. Nothing like that happening out there.
My tickets usually aren't big enough
to sell. I was going to say, I don't have enough zeros on my tickets to sell any, so that's the problem. Talk to us about Going in Circles and Chuck and all the good work you guys do over there.
Yeah, we're doing some new stuff coming up. We got a new website coming out. We're doing our Big Monday show every Monday. Comes out on Tuesday. Usually about an hour and a half to 2 hours because we hit it once a week. But we try to cover all the topics, horse racing related, and we give some commentary. So, check us out every Monday, but you can always catch me on Twitter. If you have any questions, DM me. I'm always ready to interact.
Much love always, my friend. And it's one of my favorite times of the week now. We just shifted from the Friday mornings like we used to the Thursday afternoons. And now we still get that same hour or so to talk some racing and to hopefully lead some of you out there in the right direction. Make sure to head to drf.com for any of your horse racing needs, past performances. And at DRF Bets, you can get those free past performances. So as we say goodbye, my good friend Joey Cleveland says hello with that rock version of the Call to Post.